We appreciate you guys, Frank and Sherry, being on so much. This is going to be a great webinar tonight. Always we have a lot of good response. Of course, you had a brief message. Those of you who are on, thank you so much for being here. Frank and Sherry were on our summit last week, which feels like, I don't know, to me, weeks ago. I've been traveling in between, but it feels like weeks ago, but it was just last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So you got to meet Frank and Sherry briefly, but you're in for a treat tonight, everybody. Frank and Sherry, we've known for years, and honestly, you'll get the message. It's really hard for me to explain. We absolutely endorse and love what Frank and Sherry do. It's one of the best things there is out there. Not only can you invest and do well financially, but you can also do well from the heart to help other people, which, man, that there's nothing better. And as you may have heard, as we're getting started, they're Disney people, so they're good people, right? So this is where it's at. So we're super excited to have Frank and Sherry on tonight. Honored, truly, truly honored. That obviously the shared housing and how to get started in the shared housing and help other people. We're super excited about it. So Frank and Sherry, really quick intro, really. I'm going to turn it over to you. Please go ahead and start. And if it's okay, then go ahead and start, and we'll leave a little bit of Q&A at the end. Is that okay?
Sounds wonderful.
Bring it on. We love it.
Thank you, John and Kendall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are Frank and Sherry Candelario, and we want to introduce you to the concept of using single-family real estate for homes to freedom, but not just financial freedom and a legacy, but freedom for other people. We're going to introduce you tonight to the shared housing formula so you can do more with your life, live more, and have meaning that you never thought possible. And how do we know this? We've been walking this walk for 6 years.
We have built a substantial and appreciating real estate portfolio in a very heated, expensive market. Oftentimes they say, I can't do what you do in Seattle, but I'll tell you what, the whole secret to our success is our business model, and the business model foundation is tremendous cash flow. And so I'm going to be mentioning tremendous cash flow all through this. Tremendous cash flow is what it makes it possible for us to buy beautiful homes with street appeal and serve a needy population.
So we are the founders of Kate's House Foundation. We're actually standing on the top of a condominium we own in downtown Seattle. And that one you see off to the right, we have pending with the view of the
We bought a
Space
place
Needle.
there too.
But you're going to find out tonight that we did not start with wealth. We created it using shared housing. So by training, I have a doctorate in pharmacology from University of Washington Medical School with a specialization in opioids. I was an author on how to block the effects. As you know, opioids are the component of heroin and morphine and all these street drugs that are causing harm throughout the US. And I founded a bunch of biotech companies. But what matters the most to us, to me, is being co-founder of Kate's House Foundation. And we're going to share with you what that means tonight.
And me, for 34 years, I was in international luxury branding, and it was an exciting job. It was a good job, but it was just a W-2 job that never really brought me much wealth. And yes, I was doing fashion shows in China. I was doing business in Spain and traveling the world. But really, when it all came down to it, not much as far as wealth goes. But prior to that, I owned a company called Ultralight Paddle Company. I made the world's best pickleball paddle. I don't know if any of you play pickleball out there, but really, of all the things I've done, many things in my life, the thing I'm most proud of is being co-founder with Sherry with Kate's House Foundation.
There's a movement in America and actually throughout the world where people want to have socially minded investments. We like to say your investments define you, but we're also going to share how having an investment with the heart actually builds tremendous wealth for you and lifts people up. You know, our model was so unique that when we first started housing veteran women in Seattle, Senator Patty Murray sent her liaison to our home to meet us, to see what we were doing.
And I got to tell you, Senator Patty Murray is one of the most powerful human beings in the world. But all of a sudden, we had been doing this about a year and a half, and the word is getting around that something special is happening in our single family house model. Then
And
we got visited by our Congressman, Congressman Adam Smith.
another powerful congressman. But then we moved to Florida, end of April. And one of our students in Jacksonville, who has 2 homes for veterans, he's one of our coaching students, 10 students in each home, connected us up with Marco Rubio. So we had the opportunity to talk to Marco Rubio's staff. And this was incredible because I've learned to ask for big things. And after we shared about Kate's House Foundation and how we've started this movement of beautiful single family homes in great neighborhoods to lift people up, they said, if you had any ask from the US government, what would it be? And I said, you know what I would love? I'd love to change fair housing laws so that I can have as many people in a home throughout the country as we want. And it was amazing because we realized we now have a voice in government. Oh, you might know this guy.
Look at that.
So we've been in Washington State buying single family homes for a shared housing model, but Governor Jay Inslee is now signing legislation that the Kate's House Foundation model, our model of shared housing, will be the only model of housing for recovery that will be funded in 2023. Billions of dollars in federal grants, but only our model will get funded in Washington State.
I want to bring some context to that because when we started in this business, we just did it because of a young girl named Kate, and you'll hear about that in a minute. And we said we can do better. But really, when you think about it, there's so many billions of dollars of taxpayer money that was getting funneled into similar housing. But the problem is some of the housing was substandard and it wasn't run very well. So the thought that Frank and Sherry are getting taxpayer money, running a very successful, extremely high success rate housing, but the guy down the street, not so much. And that's the governor signing. He's signing within 3 years, there'll be no more taxpayer money to non-certified, non-national standard recovery housing. And it would only go to people like us.
And I had to get my selfie.
Yeah, that's a nice selfie, Sherry. You're so nice.
So we've been speaking for years about this idea that the average investor can use our roadmap to purchase a single family home. It's got to be the right one, the right zoning, and get triple rent paid for the government. And people come to listen to us share our story, and people are joining us. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we were on the Real Estate Guys syndication symposium, a special guest, our podcast coming out soon. And what was really great is we played a song that Frank wrote about the power of housing to change lives as part of our talk. And as we got off the stage, we were surrounded by 20 people, and a gentleman came up to us and he said, if my partner and I bought you 50 homes, what can you do with it? How many people can you help? The reason we're sharing these stories is when you're doing something bigger than you ever thought or hoped or imagined, people come together to help.
I just want to say, in more context, what we are doing is touching people's heart. We were lecturing in Las Vegas one day, 500 investors, and we stopped and we were on a big stage, 20-foot stage, and we stopped in the middle and said, how many people in this room who's learning real estate skills have someone they love and care about who's struggling with addiction, recovery, and mental problems and veterans. And 70% of the people raised their hand. And that's when we knew right then and there that this business model where we can teach people how to buy nice homes in safe neighborhoods and serve those populations, they came up to us in droves, and it really is striking a chord. And that is why we're getting such attention from these amazing guys. How did we get on a Real Estate Guys?
We have good
show?
friends.
Wow.
We have good friends. This podcast came out a couple months ago. If you want to take a picture and listen to it, it's more context. We were on Kevin Butt discussing how we are using a scalable business model for real estate for single family homes. You know, people always ask us what drove us to want to do more with real estate. And I think there's a lot of us who look at the problems of the world and think we can do something. I had spent time in Sierra Leone, Africa, working with girls in an orphanage, teaching them science. Figured I should do something with the science degree.
And while she was doing that, I was walking the streets of Seattle at 4 in the morning, serving homeless people on the street. So I've got a burning desire to serve. I always have. And I met a woman in an elevator one day. Turns out she loved to serve. And when I saw a picture of her in Africa serving precious children, I'll bottom line it. This is a 2-hour story. I'll bottom line it. 5.5 weeks later, we eloped to Kauai. Years later, now we have a huge foundation that's really making a difference in this world.
And I know a lot of people who are attracted to listening to us also have that mindset of, I can do something. And when we say when purpose meets real estate investment, because we invest in real estate and in people. So in 2016, when we got a first home, we provided shared housing for 8 women. These are actually some of our people. We created New Futures. Now, we personally have helped more than 600 people with housing and new beginnings, but people we have coached throughout the United States have helped thousands more. And we're talking about the shared housing formula. In Seattle, we own and operate 6 homes, but we're starting in Florida. We've earned millions of dollars in government contracts. We say we served over 600 people, but we invest in people to change the world. And if you want to know how big the problem is,
there's 70 million people right now experiencing housing insecurity. And what we're not describing, they're not necessarily homeless, but they're that one paycheck, that layoff, that one abusive relationship away from being homeless. And they can't afford, for those who can't afford to rent places, sometimes it's not in the desirable parts of town. But what we do is we offer a beautiful home in a safe neighborhood that they can afford to get their lives back together.
We're going to introduce you to a brief video. It's about 4 minutes. For many years, we were inviting people that we were teaching to take a bus tour of our homes. And what you'll see are a group of students taking a bus tour of our homes, but you'll also meet some of the women that we've housed, and also see other investors like you who have kind of looked at our single family homes that we put in great neighborhoods and said, hey, I can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my video and take you forward on a bus tour. When we go to the 4 houses today, you're going to see how we have taken traditional family homes, have basically done some basic construction, rehab, so that we can put additional human beings together in a house where they live in bliss.
To go through this part of town is because Amazon is taking over the world. You will see there are more building cranes in downtown Seattle than any other city in the United States. Those 40,000 employees that Amazon hires, they've got all the rents. They've got all the rents within driving distance. So if you're a woman coming out of DOC, doesn't matter how much money you make, you can't afford to compete with those renters, and with your record, you're never going to get a place to rent. Casper's in the building.
Oh, yeah! This is our class! Hi! You guys, this is Casper. Okay, everybody, ask Casper if she just got a job.
Yeah.
And being in prison as long as I was in prison for almost 12 years. So for me to come out and meet this beautiful family here, they've made me feel like I have a family. I do have a family. It's not like I have one. I do have a family in these guys.
You're hearing the longevity of our housing. They're staying here 2 years. Christiane announced to us last week she's never moving out.
What we did is in this particular house, it was our biggest remodel. It was our first house. We really didn't know what we were doing. We learned a lot, but we made some mistakes. So it cost a little bit, but it turned out beautiful. And the key is we were able to add 2 more bedrooms so that we could get more density in this house.
Right.
And at $500 a bed, $1,000 a bedroom, our cash flow in this house is very nice.
Replumb this area?
Yes, we had to replumb, yeah.
Yeah, this is a complete build.
Yeah.
This was nothing but
I mean,
one
it
big
looks
open
too
space.
perfect to have not been.
Yeah.
We had idealistic, you know, and this works good, but this costs too much money. Now our goal is to buy houses that are more move-in ready.
Right, right.
And with our business model, we're able to do that. But again, this is a house that I could sell tomorrow. It's called exit strategy. We learn exit strategy, and being a real estate broker, I could put a sign on that, and this house would be gone
So
tomorrow.
we'd be in a bidding war in this neighborhood. So we were just talking about the flooring in the house and the paint and the kitchen, and a Home Depot contractor put in this kitchen. They take over all the liability, they put in the plumbing, and they come in, they measure, they pick out everything. In fact, I walked in and she had pulled everything and had it on a cart to show me it was available. And they came in and just installed it in 2 days. But our hallmark really is, it's gotta be stellar, it's gotta be nice. You know, you don't wanna do real estate unless you can sell it to somebody else.
This is a house we're very proud of because it's large and it's gorgeous, and it's a great investment because we like to own beautiful property. And thanks to our amazing residents, we have acquired beautiful property and we're serving other people. So once again, give me some ideas. Who's going to go out and start buying property and serve other people? And what population do you think do you want to serve? Anybody want to share? Who are you going to serve?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Elderly and students.
Elderly and students. Who else?
Elderly and foster care.
Elderly and foster care.
Students and the homeless.
Students and the homeless.
Women in recovery.
Women in recovery.
Yeah.
Elderly, women in recovery.
Students
That's
and
awesome.
women in recovery. We're changing the world, aren't we? Someone's got to do it. Don't you get tired of seeing all the problems on the planet Earth? And it's the property owners who can make the big difference. When you buy beautiful homes like this and you house them and you support them with other services, you can change lives. The greatest day in our lives is when a woman gets custody of her child back, she's got a good job, and she moves on. That's our nirvana.
That's beautiful.
We spend so much of our time wondering what is the greatest benefit of our business model. Is it the tremendous cash flow and gaining of wealth? Or no, actually, it's waking up to grateful people every day and getting letters and messages saying, thanks for getting my daughter back. Thanks for getting my family back. I mean, it's really an amazing thing. We really enjoy our residents.
And we've trained thousands of people to invest in real estate
Yes,
and
we
housing
have.
and security. This is one of our classes. We started working with women who are just as involved. A lot of our emphasis now are kids who are coming out of the foster care system, who have nowhere to go, Vietnam vets, men and women. The one commonality they all have is a need for housing. So we're going to show you how we do it. You know, we believe you can do anything you commit yourself to.
Yes, it needs commitment. So I'm taking over the controls. You know, when I first saw this slide, I saw a poor guy. It looks like he's working his tail off. Look at his shirt. It barely fits him. He looks like he's disheveled. He's like he's got some passion. He's working on something called, I don't know, what is that, Amazon or something. But I want to show you someone else who had just as big of a commitment. And that's Sherry. One day, Jeff Bezos said, I want to be the richest man in the world. And Sherry says, I want to end homelessness in America. And I wonder which one of these two people actually live a life that's happier, because we are ending homelessness in America,
I think-
especially with our residents following our model.
He looked pretty happy in that rocket ship the other day. So what you're about to discover, and by the way, I've been using this picture of this scientist for 20 years because it reminds me of the people I work with in the lab. How to get significant cash flow using a single family rental in today's hot market. How to get 3 times your income, 10 times the profit, maybe 20 times the profit. Why now is the right time for shared housing. And how 4 homes can fund your freedom, your financial freedom, your legacy, your independence, and your ability to help your community in 12 months or less. So let's look at a single family rental. You're all real estate investors. You're not going to be shocked when we show you that across America, this is a median. It's higher on the coast, half in the middle. 1,700 might be your average rent. But when you take away your mortgage and expenses and repairs and property management, we've seen this number for years. You're lucky if you get $200 a month.
We started out our investing with this model here, and it didn't take long before we were saying there's got to be something better.
Okay, this is the picture we want you to stare at right now. See all these beds? They're identical. We put 2 beds in a bedroom in a 4-bedroom house.
Or 5-bedroom
Oh, yeah.
house.
It's sometimes 9 or 10 people. We charge by the bed. This is a modest amount, but even with 8 beds, it would be $6,000 a month, $2,000 a month with expenses because we're adding in the utilities. And you get $4,000 a month. So let's compare these two. We know the $200 a month price tag. We've done it. We've lived it. But we've also lived the $4,000 to $6,000 to $8,000 a month
Fee.
income. So what are people worried about today? There's a lot going on in the world. You're worried about taxes, and we have a right to be. Congress is playing with our taxes again. About a better world for our children. This has been a tough couple of years for a lot of people.
About having enough money. I've been there.
Yep, and inflation. This is the first time in years, 13 years, that inflation is an issue. It's all over the news today. And having secure and reliable cash flow. In fact, the Wall Street Journal in May said it was the highest in 13 years. We're still going up. And you're probably saying, okay, what should I do?
We have a suggestion.
Invest in real estate. You know, going back to the land barons 1,100 years ago, real estate is how people win. But invest in real estate that provides an income.
Tremendous cash flow. Remember those words.
And we want to show you what the government is really encouraging you to do right now. You know, by the end of this presentation, you're going to learn how to build a real estate portfolio that performs 3 ways: appreciates, significant cash flow, and build wealth for you and impact your community.
We call that Triple Crown investing. It's about building wealth. That's what we want to do. And when you're able to buy a house with tremendous cash flow, that builds wealth. But not only that, but we buy homes with curb appeal, almost move-in ready in appreciating neighborhoods. And when that happens, you build wealth. And the other way you build wealth is have the taxpayer money paid down your mortgage. Yes. And so those 3 things, when they're all working together, it's like a Swiss watch, building your wealth.
Okay, you know, people have often asked us, is this a crisis right now? Well, we think it's a crisis, but in every good crisis, there's an opportunity. And I want to share with you, we talked about Kate's House Foundation and how that came about. You know, I'm going to take you back to 1999. You know, you may recall that was Y2K and IT was going to disappear, but it was also a time when newspapers, remember those, existed, and there were articles in the newspapers on the news every night about Russia, how it was impoverished, but the people who were suffering the most were the orphans. And you may be asking, how does this impact real estate? This has everything to do with what we did. So I was finishing up that hard-earned PhD at University of Washington Medical School as a pharmacologist, planning on being a research scientist. And my kids were in junior high and high school, and they were staying home alone, you know, senior in high school. And my neighbor asked my kids, could we be a host family for a month for one of these starving orphans of Russia? Well, I'm at the lab. And of course they said yes, because they were raised by me. And they called and they said, we're going to get a little girl in the house for a month. And I said, oh, wait till I get home. Let's talk about it. Well, as much as I wanted to say no, when I saw the picture of this beautiful 6-year-old, and it was only going to be a month, You know, we moved heaven and earth to adopt her, and that meant she had to go back to Russia. We had to go to Russia and pick her up and bring her back. In fact, she was in our home 1 week after I did my thesis defense. I was ready to give away everything to save a child. And I'm sure a lot of you have been in that circumstance. You know, if you're a parent or a grandparent, we do everything for our kids. And she became my child the minute I met her. And she had a great life with us, best school district. I'm working now, decided to pivot my career into biotech so I could be home with her after school every day. But what I couldn't change, and you can't change, genetics and trauma, starvation, and all the bad things that happen to kids between 0 and 6. And even though she did very, very well till she was 12, her mom was an addict, her grandmother was an alcoholic, and she went down that road. And I'm thinking, I know something about addiction. I've written the papers on how to stop it, and took her to hospitals and took her to housing. And I did everything I was told, but it didn't matter. When she became 18 years old, I discovered that housing was substandard. I discovered that my daughter would be kicked out 1 day, 2 days, a week afterwards. And I want to show you where I used to find her. Under this bridge with other kids. And we got to know those kids. They were foster kids who were leaving bad homes. They were young adults. They were people banding together to protect each other. And I would go there and find Kate. And I'll never forget when Frank and I were on our second date and I was telling him about Kate. He said, I know where that bridge is because I go there to feed the kids. So we went and fed the kids. That's how we spent our dates. It's not surprising we got married after 5 weeks. I want to show you another picture. She's now 23. I've done this for 12 years. And the gentleman she's with is my son's best friend from elementary school. When he found out that little mom, me, was going to go to a heroin den to extract my daughter because she was being abused, he said, I'm going with you. And he did what he wanted to protect me. And we did what I always do whenever I'd extract Kate from somewhere, which was buy her coffee, clean her up, get her a haircut, and take her to treatment again. We did this 12 times. And every time I went to the housing that was the hospital told me was the housing she needed to go to. And every time I found it was punitive and she couldn't exist there. But I did find housing. She's 23 years old right now, and I found a home in San Diego just by accident who took her in even though she was still using drugs. And I want to show you what the power of housing is. This is 3 weeks after she was in good housing. They didn't kick her out when she didn't do the dishes. I'm smiling, but I can tell you, parents, grandparents, I hadn't smiled since she went down that path. And there is a happy ending. She has a child who will never know the addiction that she went through because he didn't have her life experiences, and she's fighting to make sure that he has a healthy life. And you're probably asking right now, what is shared housing?
A lot of misconceptions about shared housing.
I want to compare the model that's been around for 50 years to the model Frank and I created, and why we want you to understand how a single family home that you own can change so many lives.
And I'd like to say, we have opinions on the Oxford model because we actually saw them and Kate experienced them. We're just not making these up.
This is still the rule today for most shared housing. The residents are voted in and out of the house by the other residents. They don't like you, you're not coming in. There's a rigid structure where it's a self-managed home. And any problem at all, whether for Kate, sometimes not doing chores, sometimes being late, relapse. It's a disease. She would relapse. You're out on the curb in 15 minutes.
And when that happened to her, she disappeared for another 6 months.
Yeah.
This was just like a revolving door. It kept happening.
Yeah. And our shared housing formula that we created is we work with institutions that have counselors, that have clients, whether they're disadvantaged women, whether they're vets, whether they're people who are justice involved, whether they're our foster kids, they recommend and monitor our clients. We don't. We're 2,500 miles away from our homes. We choose people who demonstrate commitment, and we invest in people, and we have a roadmap for success.
I can tell you this. I can tell you this. When we got in this business called recovery housing, it was like the wild, wild west. Anyone could have a recovery housing. They could just start them up. And there was no rules, there's no regulations. And some people actually did a fairly good job. There's some compassion, and the houses were fairly nice. But we experienced a few times finding Kate in the houses where they had them stacked like sardines, and they were not so clean, and they were in the bad part of town. It was very difficult. How can someone really get their life together when you have all this distraction around you? So that's what we found. It was like the wild, wild west. But since we saw that, and since Sherry and I got involved in this project, actually creating the houses and getting politically involved, we say there's a new sheriff in town. It's sheriffs, Frank and Sherry, the sheriffs, but we also have a lot, maybe 100, couple hundred deputies, and they are our
Doing the
students
same.
who are learning to open up houses like we do to get the same results, to make a difference in people's lives.
And you're probably asking us, well, when you put her there, didn't you know that? No, they don't let you in the house. They only let you in the house when they're asking you to pick up your
Stuff and go.
your child's belongings. So there's myth versus truth. You know, in our shared housing formula, we're in great neighborhoods, safe neighborhoods. We make affordable rent. Our residents love us. But for you as a landlord, this is a golden opportunity. You know, you're probably thinking of this.
Police raids all the time. And we have seen houses like that, but they are not ours. We spend huge amounts of our energy making sure this is not our experience. And big part of our presentation to you, and you saw some of them in the video, our residents are people who have earned early release. They've earned the opportunity to live in one of our houses. In fact, they're often asked, what have you done to deserve to live in a Kate's house? So here's an example of that's more typical
And I was
of
going to
our
say,
residents.
and 80% of our residents are never been justice
Yeah.
involved. They're young, they're youth who need a home. So we say invest in people, change the world. So, you know, let's think about some of the people we work with. We work with vets.
I want to tell you this. My dad was a vet, Vietnam veteran, Purple Heart. And if the day ever comes when you copy our model or take tours of our houses, every single one of our houses flies that American flag. We love taking in vets.
And this is called reentry from prison. These are actually some of our ladies, kindergarten teacher who was addicted to prescription drugs. Student housing is a really big thing right now, especially with the dorms closed in many states. That's one of our homes. Those are some of our people. Recovery homes, that's where the action is right now. We're going to share why. Foster kids aging out of the system. These are younger, but you know, we're getting these kids at 18. Golden girls and boys.
You know, they're too mobile, too young to move into a senior adult living home. Okay, that may be in their future, but a lot of them just love to
live in community. And
it's affordable, and it's a nice place, and it's actually very popular.
And the secret is, if you're doing one of these homes, they can drink, and they will. They'll be having wine out in the backyard. We're getting a lot of parents who have adults in their family with special needs, autism particularly, who want to learn the model so they can find housing for their kids because they know their kids are going to outlive them. Temporary workers, a bunch of our students are actually housing traveling nurses and making a lot of money doing that. And corporate housing, you can work anywhere anymore. So really, it's a shared journey of any kind.
We want you tonight, when you're sleeping, in your mind, think of it. Is there a population, a group of people that you have a passion to help? Maybe it reminds me of someone who had a friend of mine had an adult Down syndrome person, and he created a house. He created a house for his Down syndrome, and he's doing very, very well.
As Frank's saying that, I clicked the slide and had to show me the
I know,
money.
you're distracted.
And of course, you want to show me the money. The reason we're successful is we created a business around this, but you can have a business with heart. And I think the biggest difference for us from day one is we get government funding. You know, and we talk about myths versus reality. You know, I shared about my degree, I actually practiced patent law. I've been co-founder of a bunch of biotech companies. But we found out life is unpredictable. Be middle-aged and lose your W-2. And it doesn't mean you can't get another one, but sometimes do you even want to? I've had this life experience with Kate. Frank shared it with me. And even though we had debt and obligations, we said, we're going to jump off and be socialpreneurs, entrepreneurs. We're going to make a social change. I can get another job or live my dream. Guess what we chose?
Well, here's a picture of this gentleman. After 34 years, I got a call from my boss. He says, Frank, I have good news, bad news. Good news is I'm going to give you a full year's severance and all benefits. But the bad news is I asked him, so what's the bad news? We're laying off most of the company and you're one of them. 34 years. I was like stunned and shocked. And what am I going to do now? Sherry, what are we going to do?
Like I always say, I took this picture and he packed his things in a garbage bag. These big life events happen to all of us. I helped co-found, I actually did the trademarks in all these companies. My stock options were 0 because one thing we found out is the people who fund the company end up taking the money from the company. So for us, a W-2 is meaningless. Doesn't matter how much education you have or how secure you think you are, have to make your own way in life. We've been a hamster in a wheel, but I'd rather be a hamster running my wheel for my own business.
So as we were talking, what in the world are we going to do?
Oh yeah, 2 people. We've gone from 2 high-paying jobs down to nothing. We're newly married. We owe a lot of money.
Net worth.
There's no net worth except for a little bit in a 401k. We went to Las
Let's
Vegas.
go to Vegas.
That's what you do when things look bad. Roll the dice.
Don't worry, be happy.
So we actually went to the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop. And we had only been married a year, and that was the first big diamond ring I'd ever had. And I had to put it in my pocket to keep him from pawning
checking out that
it.
diamond ring. Now we're going to pay our next mortgage payment.
But we're standing outside of it because I convinced Frank to get in the line to be on the TV show.
But this is a classic example of Sherry and my personality. Look at my face. I'm sitting there going, what in the world? What we're going to have to do something. We got to come up with something. And look at Sherry, carefree, optimistic. And Sherry looked at me and said, you know what? This is a great opportunity, Frank, for us to redefine ourselves and find more meaning and purpose in our life.
And I'm going to ask you if you could redefine yourself. Start thinking about what that would look like. It's like, where do we go now? The path less traveled. We know for 50 years, recovery homes are profit focused. And there was not a structure when we started, but we had a vision. And the vision is we could change this throughout the whole United States for everybody. And recovery didn't just mean people with substance use disorder. It meant our vets. It meant our disadvantaged women. It meant our foster kids. We're going to change it for everybody. In fact, we said we can do better. But
Give me that hammer. Give me that hammer. We can do better.
And I'll never forget, this is our New Year's resolution. We're unemployed, don't have much money. Frank said, what are we going to do? We're remodeling this house. What's your vision? I said, our vision is we're going to change housing throughout the whole United States. And Frank looked at me, he goes, don't you think that's kind of a big goal?
Don't ever underestimate Sherry and her dreams.
You got to
And by the way, that's just a stage picture. I don't even know if I own a hammer.
You do.
When you make tremendous cash flow, you don't have to do much remodeling.
And we were the very first homes that were nationally accredited in Washington State because we made Washington bring accreditation standards in and raise the bar. And so our teaching is to invest in people, change the world by getting quality homes in great areas to end housing insecurity. And we know 70 million people have it. So wherever you're at, who wants to join us in our mission? I know you're there. Raise your hand.
Recruits.
Or look at and raise your hand anyway, because you want to do something cool and different. There you go. I know.
You want more purpose. You want more meaning.
So we're offering you financial freedom, control of your time, make a legacy, avoid mistakes and save time because we did it for you, and make an impact in the world. Our shared housing formula is really financial impact, but it's community impact. So go ahead and take a picture of this slide. Get your iPhone out. These are the people we talk about housing. And I want it to be on your camera. So when you're flipping through in a few days and say, what did we talk about? We talked about these people have needs. It's a lot of people.
And collectively, there are billions and billions. You think I'm Carl Sagan, billions and billions of dollars just sitting out there waiting to come to someone like you who opens up a beautiful home in a safe neighborhood for vulnerable populations, and they will pay you by the bed, 2 beds to a bedroom. For instance, our best account is $850 a bed, $1,700 a bedroom times 4 or 5. We're getting tremendous cash flow.
That's 4 or 5
Bedrooms.
bedrooms in a home. It's 8,000,
Work the
9,000 a
numbers
month.
yourself. You don't need us to tell you, just work the numbers yourself.
So who do not, Frank and I specialize? We specialize in substance use disorder, veterans, people who have had some justice involvement, that's keeping those kids out of prison, and the foster kids who have aged out of the system.
I love this story.
So this young man who's the guard for President Bill Clinton was 19 at the time. And there he is in his dress blues. He's 100% disabled with PTSD. And how do I know him? He's helping babysit our daughter, our granddaughter, who is our daughter.
And he makes great appeals
Yeah,
for more housing for veterans because the need is so great. And he is inspiring us. We are going to be opening up quite a few veterans homes here in Florida.
4.7 million veterans have a service-related disability, and they have housing benefits. I want you to meet one of ours from last summer.
Hey, my name is Charlie. I'm a 76-year-old Vietnam vet. I was in the 101st Airborne Division. With my income being on Social Security, I'm grateful for the chance to live here. It's a very comfortable, clean place to live, and it's safe. It's very safe. I don't know a lot more to say than that, except that I'm very fortunate in being here, and every day seems to be a godsend. I don't know how much longer I'll be here, but that's in the future. As far as every day, it's a good place to be on an everyday basis.
That had a happy ending. We found Charlie's family 7 months later, and they took him in.
Imagine a house full of amazing heroes just like him. And look how beautiful that home is. It's immaculate. Imagine owning a beautiful home full of amazing human beings like that, being paid by the government and making tremendous cash
How many
flow.
people would like to serve that? Raise your hand. Usually that's touches so many people. So one of the things I want to bring to you, this is me being Dr. Sherry, 32 million children aged 12 and older used illegal drugs within the last 30 days. We share more of that when we see you again, but this is a huge problem, and we want to inform everybody we speak to. This is increasing. These are our kids and grandkids. We need to educate ourselves so we can help our kids. And I want to remind you, they're kids like Kate. You know, we don't know which kids are going to be genetically predisposed for that. Foster kids aging out of the system. That was one of our first clients. I'm sitting here with her. They're 18 to 21. Actually, now it's up to 25. 23,000 kids at 18 age out. They no longer have housing. In fact, 20% of all foster kids become instantly homeless.
And what do you do when you have nowhere to go? You go to the streets, and we all know what can happen there.
These kids are vulnerable. They have no skills. So our shared housing formula, what's different? Significant government funding. There's 3 specific reasons why. The National Alliance for Recovery Residences, and I'll explain to you briefly what that is. This is sweeping the nation. This is changing the nation. In 2011, 4 years before we got started, a handful of people who were ethical operators said we need to set some standards for shared recovery homes. As you can imagine, the 50 years of people, the thousands of homes that are underground didn't want that. Their mission was to create national standards and standardize a code of ethics so people weren't taken advantage of, and they ranked their homes by levels of care. So you're going to come out of here with some new information. In fact, every green state is accredited, and all of those blue states will soon be green, and that's just happened this summer. And there's a reason why the states are going towards an R certification, because it's federally recognized. There's an affiliate relationship in 39 states now, but the Surgeon General, it was 5 years later in 2016 before there was even a reference to it. And then President's Commission on Opioid Addiction in 2017 referenced it. So all of a sudden it's hitting Congress in a big way. And I'm going to share more with you how.
Why is this the opportunity of a lifetime? Well, first of all, Sherry is on the board of director of the affiliate, and I inspect for those houses. So when we get students to teach how to open up their houses, and that's kind of like a good housekeeping seal. You know, almost every industry has standards, whether it's the restaurant industry or something, but this industry has not. It's been $1 billion industry with no standards. Now there is. And what it does is when we're able to get people NAR certified or NAR pending, they are automatically eligible for these huge tax-paying benefits.
So medically assisted treatment, I happen to be an expert on
Yes,
that. And that's our homes, MA2. And what does that mean? It means that people can take medication at their doctor's office that blocks their addiction and saves their lives.
You don't want to scare people. You don't want to make people think, oh, you got to have something to do with medication. You
No.
don't. What it means is in many homes in the past 50 years, they don't want any kind of medication. You can't even have ibuprofen. But the thing is, there is wonderful treatment for addiction. And if it's followed up with medically approved treatment, then it's a real winner and it's a real problem solver.
And you don't do anything. I don't do anything.
You are, in fact, what you're going to do right now, you're going to morph from a real estate investor to a housing provider.
So MAT and Recovery Homes is defined by MAR, and we are MAT Homes. And let me show you how that happened. As you can see, here's kind of a unique group of people. These were the recovery home operators in Seattle, Washington. As you can see, some of them may have come from the system themselves. And we called them all together and we said, we want to explain NAR. And during that meeting, we formed the state affiliate. And one of the gentlemen said, you guys have the only homes that could ever pass the inspection and be NAR certified. And Governor Inslee not only signed that only funding could go to NAR certified homes, actually MAT homes. In 2022, specifically in Washington State, they just signed funding that there will be $70,000 to each person who opens up a new home to use for expenses. And this is sweeping the country. I'm going to share with you the grants. Let me cough. Okay, I'm good.
I'm doing the mute button.
I'm
Me
getting
too.
over a bad cold,
All right.
so it's okay. So SAMHSA, who administers these grants, this was recent, these block grants are coming out right now. Billions of dollars of block grants are being granted. In fact, 2 weeks ago, the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act was passed by the Senate. And this is one of the first times, you can see here in bold, is to prevent the use of meth, opioids, heroin, and promote treatment and recovery. But the big one is on the bottom. I want to circle it for you. It includes funding for recovery housing. And who else is getting funding? Funding from HHS for former foster kids, federal law. In fact, on today's news, President Biden announced the federal government is going to look at this problem and throw more money at it. Why? These kids deserve it. So now I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to switch it to you. How much money do you need each month to cover your monthly personal expenses? You have to think about that. This is business. For your house, cars, kids, we pay for daycare, groceries, and fun. You know, for a lot of people, if we say, would $10,000 a month be your nut? Would that be enough for you to live on? They say, yep, I can do that. For some people, it's less. For some people, it's more. We're less. But we're going to talk about 4 Homes to Freedom because we did that. The shared housing formula, how you can do more, how you can live more, how you can feel your real estate can mean more. You know, but let's talk about how many homes do you need? Remember our $200 number? It would take 50 homes to get that $10,000.
50 water heaters, 50 plumbing bills, 50, it's just not possible. Out of the question.
But there's 4 Homes to Fund Your Freedom. we're talking about $4,000 on average. We get higher, some people get lower, but still, that's not 10,000, it's 16,000. And your real estate investors, you know, this home would retail for 750,000 in Seattle, probably half that in other parts of the country, but it's not affordable as a rental in Seattle or expensive parts of the country. But we bought it and rehabbed it for 400,000. And every month since 2016, we're averaging 7,200 a month. And when we take out all our expenses, we have a $4,500 a month.
Year in,
profit.
year out, decade in, decade out. But there's another amazing bonus that we realized. We can leave some of our houses behind after we pass away. You know, all the billionaires, they get to leave legacies, but we are making arrangements for some of our houses to carry on long after we're gone. Isn't that great? Isn't that cool thought that you can leave a legacy like others?
54,000 each year potential income. That house has paid for itself since 2016. And notice number 2, notice the Cadillac in the driveway. That's a resident. They tend to have nice cars. And here are the numbers for that. You know, these are higher than some parts of the country. We admit that. But the fact that these houses have doubled in 5 years, that's great appreciation. So when we look at this house, we're talking about 5,000 a month cash flow, 60,000 a month potential income. But if you're getting 3,000 of 5,000 income per month per house, how many do you need to fund your freedom? We have a success coach that we trained who has 2 rentals, and he's using our roadmap and formula, and he's funded his freedom. So here's Kate's house number 3 and 4. Whoops, let me go back. That went too fast. These are adjacent to each other. We own them both. And there's a great story behind them that we'll share when we meet again.
When we meet again.
We've got
a million great stories when we meet again.
We got 16 men on that property. And here's another secret. We control this house with no money down. This is another one where we're buying homes with great views. And this one actually has appreciated $200,000 in the last 2 years. Sadly, it'll probably hit the chopping block for us because we're going to take that money and buy 4 or 5 homes down here.
You have so many options. So this particular one, the appreciation went through the roof. So we're going to sell it and we're going to buy 2 more houses.
Or 3 or 4 down here in Florida. So let's look at this. I want to remind you, we're talking about renting by the bed. So there's no confusion. Single family home. Raise your hand if this seems like something you could do. If you,
is this making sense? Are you getting what we're talking about?
Yep. This is fun stuff. This is really
doable.
So let's compare again. I want to remind you of the numbers. You know, some of our students already have real estate that we decide if it can be repurposed or if it can be sold for something better. But if you're in real estate, this is a great thing to do. And I want to introduce you to one of our first residents. We've got a couple minutes left. And this is a great story. This is Michelle. She moved in with us probably 6 months after we started. And by the way, at that point, we owned 3 homes in Seattle, and they were cash flowing. But she was a young mom to this child, single mom,
he was quite young then.
Managing an office. And Michelle was stressed. You know, stress is hard. It's hard to be a single mom. It's hard to be a parent. And she went to her trusted physician and she said, I can't sleep, can't keep all this going. And this doctor gave her a prescription of Ambien, the sleeping pill. Michelle did not know this is highly addictive. She's an overachiever. She's doing everything correctly, but she did become addicted and she took too many. And she was driving home from school with her son in the car, and she fell asleep. And she ended up hitting a man in a crosswalk, young 30-something. She found out the next day when she was in jail, her son was taken first to foster care and then to her parents. I want you to hear her story because this can happen to anybody.
I'm Michelle. I'm 37 years old. I have been a resident at Kate's house for almost 1.5 years now. I moved here the day that I was released from work release. I did 4 years and 5 months in the institution, the women's penitentiary, and I cannot even begin to say how incredibly appreciative I am for Kate's Place and the houses and Frank and Sherry for everything that they've done, not just for me, but for my family and for all the girls that have come after me. For Frank and Sherry and Kate's Place, it's more than just transitional living, clean and sober living, a house for disadvantaged women. It's safety, it's base, it's your castle, it's your home, it's your nest. I'm a grown woman doing my own things, paying my own bills without assistance from anybody else. I'm not living with my family. I'm living in a shared living environment with other women that are also paying rent, so it builds this confidence and this security that, girl, you got this. We get it that you're out here struggling and it's going to be rough and you're going to have some times that you need to take, but we got you. Whether you've fallen down and you need to get picked back up, or we just need to give that little push to get you to the next step. Frank and Sherry and Kate's Place have done that the entire time, and without them, I would not be able to attest to the things that I've accomplished today.
So wouldn't you like to help somebody like Michelle? We've helped a lot of Michelles. This was taken the day she got custody of her son back, got off supervision. She's living in a penthouse. She's managing a restaurant.
Our life is full of so many wonderful stories just like that.
And it was housing. And, it was our roadmap, our rules that helped her to move forward. So what's your legacy going to be? I keep talking about our grandbabies that we are raising. Here they are. I want them to have a better world. I want them to have the world they deserve. Invest in people, change the world. Think back to the first day of school.
I'm thinking about this.
And then you're in college.
You wake up one day, it's like, look in the mirror and say, what the heck happened?
I know, time goes by fast.
How did I get to be this age?
And if we could put together our financial security in 5 short years, actually we had it in 1 year. I know you can too. So who wants to join us on our mission? So there's a shared housing formula. There's 10 steps. The 4 fastest ways to participate, we'll give that to you briefly. You can own the real estate and use our formula. You can own the real estate and lease it to somebody like us. We like that. You can purchase an established shared recovery home and use our formula. We've got people doing that. Or you've got the money, you don't want anything to do with this, but you want to be a socialpreneur. You can lend money or be a JV partner. And I know a lot of you are asking, how do I get started? And I know you have questions: zoning, neighbors, liability, funding, license. What if I told you we had all those answers? Can I have your permission to share the 4 Homes to Freedom shared housing formula and what you will learn? Because we're offering a class and it's coming up pretty soon. How to find the best opportunities.
Using a 501(c)(3) for your shared housing homes.
And we effectively leverage a 501(c)(3) to keep our income down. The 26 characteristics of the right home for shared housing and how to get investors in this. People want to help. How to find the right team so you can be a hands-off owner. We've done that. We're running a foundation in Seattle from Florida.
How to fill your homes quickly. We know all the agencies, we know all the organizations that are waiting for someone like you to open up your house.
And how to get government funding.
And have people in it.
And how to do this within a year. So location is everything, but we have students all over this beautiful country. And you're probably asking about zoning, license, and HOAs. Got experience all over this country.
Got that handle.
That's one of our students. I have to tell the story, the hands-off management playbook.
Amazing.
She's in Seattle. She owns a construction company, a multi-million-dollar construction company for the last 30 years. And she flipped houses for 30 years. And when we shared, we keep our houses so they keep feeding us. She took our class and we're actually coaching her. So, like she said, she took advantage of our 10,000 hours of experience. What about funding and resources? Got you covered.
Got them.
Fill it fast formula. How do you get people in? We know that too. And the secrets to using a 501(c)(3). What's fun about our class is the behind the scenes virtual home tours. And we do live interviews with our students and residents. So again, do you want financial freedom? Control your time, leave a legacy, avoid mistakes, and make an impact on the world. So I'm going to share with you what we're offering here. how to get the right location, how to have hands-off management, funding and resources, license, zoning, and HOA.
We've
Fill-
got every contingency
Fill it fast.
covered.
Behind the scenes virtual home tours. This really is a $10,000 value.
Because we are going to expose you to our residents, our staff, our neighbors who love us, by the way, and all the inner workings of how we operate our foundation.
But you came here tonight and you know I'm going to make you a discount. You can have all of this: location, management, funding, fill it fast, and behind the scenes virtual home tours for $19.97. So there's going to be a link in the chat box. Here are the dates.
It's
That
very comprehensive.
bring a partner, bring a business partner. It's going to be on Zoom. This is us in front
How
of.
do you like that picture? Isn't that cool?
Yeah, we live actually right there in downtown Seattle when we're downtown. But we do this over a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we say, bring your family, fill your house, bring your mailman. It's on Zoom. We believe in the power of partnership. And in fact, our coaching students, we're always putting them together so they can help each other. But this is coming up. Here are the dates: December 3, 4, and 5.
It's a deep dive into exactly how we operate.
And January 28, 29, and 30. And to get that discount, got to use a promo code PWealth at RHA3day.com. But Kendall's going to put the link in the box so you don't even have to remember it. But if you think you want to do this, take a photo of this, because that promo code is good for 24 hours only, or the first 15 people.
We would love to have
We'd
you
love
join
to
us.
have you. So here, when you go to Recovery Housing Academy, you can see if you go into the 3-day, you'll see $29.97. But when you put in the promo code PWealth and hit the apply button, it brings it on down. And if you have any problems, you know where to find us. We have a great team that can assist you. But for $19.97, you got the 3-day, you have the information. And what I believe is, we know we've been teaching this for years. Everybody loves the class. And even if you attend class and say, my timing's not right, we'll show you how to make your timing right. We'll show you how you can use rentals. We'll show you how you can get partners. Don't get ahead of yourself.
And perhaps you already have a lot of houses that aren't cash flowing very well. Many of our residents come to this class so that they can repurpose clients, residents. So we have so many, so they can repurpose their house and escape the small cash flow and replace it with tremendous cash flow.
This is so cool. We had a guy who became a coaching student this weekend, had 24 homes. And he said, I want to put them all into shared housing. So we get a lot of big time real estate investors, but we get a lot of people with heart who want to do something special, who feel this kind of, you listen to our stories, you watch the videos, and you listen to us and you go, yeah, I want to do that. So our hour is up. I'm going to ask you to join us now, and we're going to take questions.
Hey, great job, Frank and Sherry. Seriously, thank you so much. I love the message. And like I said, when we started, we fully endorse it. It just got, a message with purpose and passion. I can feel it from you guys. I can see it in your faces. Clearly, it's something you love. And I love that it's, profits and heart and passion at the same time. And you really can't change the world. A lot of times we discuss this, with our students. Our students know this, well, you can't change the world unless you take action and actually do something. You can't keep doing what you do and expect things to change, right? That's insanity. So if you want to, find something that works well for you, Protect Wealth, we totally endorse this. We love it. We love Frank and Sherry. I recognize some students in your video because we've had students that have gone through this. So a lot of real estate investors have done very well. Gosh, I got a few houses I want to convert. So this is fun. Thank you so much. What a great offer too. Super generous. And I don't know if you can see the Q&A. There's a few questions in there, and why you're pulling that up, you're welcome to answer those. But I will say a little insight for you, Frank and Sherry. Our students last Thursday had a presentation by Chris Johnson on grants. And so they learned specifically about grants, scholarships, loans, and that there are a lot of things right now, a lot of money, more than ever before, specifically for this too. And we've had students actually do this specifically for their business and real estate. So, hey, the double insight, serendipity, guys.
It is. It is. I think the very first one is Razan and Shane. Is this like independent living? Yes, they're totally independent. No, but what we teach is how to get an agency to pay for your client and support your client. So, we're just the landlords.
But there's a checklist that, it's got to be in the right neighborhood. It's got to be in the right zoning. It's got to be built and structured the right way. There's those kind of answers that make it a smooth running, I like to say, runs like a Swiss watch.
And Razan said, awesome video, made me cry. Me too. I have a hard time every time. And Patrick asked, what kind of support and networking do you have for after the training? How can I find people doing this in our area? We're upfront. Probably about 40% of the students, sometimes higher, ask us to help coach them. And that's kind of a separate program. But a lot of our students try to do it independently. It's your choice. It's just an offer.
We have students, we're coaching in states all over the country. And every time someone new comes in, they say, I'm from this area. We go, well, we know someone.
We know people everywhere.
We're gonna hook you guys up.
But, don't put the cart before the horse. I would say
come to our 3-day.
Come to the training and decide if you like it or not. Most people do, but you just don't know. Can you meet real estate professional status doing shared housing? I think, Frank's a real estate broker. I think, is that the question? Well, Patrick, do you want to write more?
Yeah, we own millions of dollars of real estate, and our cash flow is tremendous. I mean, I don't know any of my old real estate investors who are even close to where we're at now.
So who manages the property as you scale? Anonymous attendee. I like that. So as we're scaling, what we do is we use a system. We're both from corporate America, where we have a trained house lead that we don't pay. They get a small discount on their room fee. And our house leads have been with us forever. And then we have one person typically who is known as a peer mentor. And we're going to talk all about that in the 3-day class, how you tap into that. It's all over the country. And the peer mentor actually oversees all the house leads. And we're not talking about an employee. We're talking about somebody who spends a few hours a month.
Because these are people who are grateful to be in your house. But you mentioned the word fee, and this is one of the best things about what we do, our model. The money that is paid for someone to live in our house, there is no landlord-tenant relationship. There is no lease signed. There are no landlord-tenant relationship and laws where people can, well, what have we heard? Eviction moratoriums?
Yeah.
That does not apply. The money that is paid for someone to be in our house is for a fee for clean and sober, level 2 recovery housing. And if they don't, or they're unable to support the house and work the program the way it's structured, then they're asked to rehome.
And they usually leave,
Yeah, they move on.
We've got a
by
whole
themselves.
system for this. We spend a lot of time with our roadmap, how we get the right residents in and how we get them, people to self-select into our homes. So Benita asked, do you have extra insurance for the extra liability of the people? Now, we just have fire policies on our homes, but because we have nonprofits and we talk about the magic of the nonprofit, when you have a nonprofit, you're eligible for a nonprofit liability policy that's very inexpensive just for these types of homes. So we train all of that. My background is not just science. I'm a patent counsel. And so liability and contracts, I eat, live, and breathe that stuff. But, don't take this as legal advice. I have to tell you that because patent law is not this.
And Marcia says, I want to know more. I'm a veteran and I want to help veterans. I can't tell you the percentage of people that take our class that go on to open up houses for veterans.
We had a 30-year vet take our class this weekend. And how do I expand this to Alaska? Now that you would be our first, Allie Shaligo Holmes, you'd be our first Alaska student, but we're from Washington State. They're one and the same to me. So I'm sure we could figure that out.
We've never found a state that we weren't able to get people up and running.
No. Who takes care of tenant disputes? Patrick asked. That's a great question.
Great.
We have house rules, actually 38 of them growing, that people have to sign before they come into the house. But we're also use the NAR standard. And the NAR standard is kind of an overall protection. When you have NAR standard, your state laws defer to you. So there aren't tenant disputes because basically in many states where the NAR standard applies, if the tenants aren't doing well, the state says you don't have to live here. But we don't see that as a problem
Well,
because what we typically see is people want to live in community because they want to live somewhere.
But we have a wonderful solution. Now, listen, here's something you didn't know. Before I got in corporate world, I used to be executive director of a camp, right? And running these Kate's houses is like running a camp. I got to make sure the toilet's flushed, the hot water's hot, and everything's working. But I also have to deal with personalities, and sometimes they don't work. So I use the old strategy I did years ago. If two people in a house, they're not really getting along very well, I say, Johnny, come on, let's go look at this other house. And you move them to another house. And all of a sudden, very often, those personalities get along. So that's how we do it. We run it like a camp. And rather than make people live if they're not, getting along so well, you just move them to a different house. And very often that solves a problem.
Okay. Let's see. I tried typing the P-Wealth code, but didn't see a change in cost. Can you check that, Kendall? I was told the link was working.
I'll check it right now. Yeah, we'll double check.
Okay. Do you accept PayPal? I think they do. Copy of Safi wants a copy of the recording of today's meeting. I do too. I think that'd be great.
Okay, we'll send you one. Okay.
I love that. Thank
Full
you.
much hay, full leg there.
Okay. It's my husband and I have plans to start a nonprofit for affordable housing for single families. Are the government funding grant information you provide specific for shared housing only? No. We actually, when you take the class, we've made a huge list of different areas where you can get funding. I bet you didn't know, Joyce, that the second biggest funder of housing for people who are underprivileged is Catholic Charities. I didn't know that, after the federal government. So, there's a lot of resources out there. Rosine and Shane said it's so awesome.
Thank you.
Do you have their managers there? There's not a lot of management. I'm going to tell you, we've been doing this for 6 years, Marcia. We have a house lead, we have the house rules. Our people all are in programs outside of the home, so they're not violating
They
their
have caseworkers
programs.
that are assigned to them that keep an eye on them.
Yeah, and
we simply provide the home. Though, any chance I get, I like hanging around these folks. They're a lot of fun to be around, and they're just grateful, awesome people. And by the way, in our 3-day class, you're going to see videos where houses have been occupied for more than 6 years by 8 to 10 people, and you'll see they're immaculate. These residents are so grateful to be in this beautiful house in this safe neighborhood, getting their life back together. They take very good care of the house.
so Trafton said his card was charged $29.97. So you will not be charged that tomorrow.
We'll get those.
If
fixed.
this is not fixed, Isabel at RHA will get this fixed.
Yeah, so I did just test it. It looks like it is having some issues. So probably what we've done in the past when this happens is go ahead and fill it out if you're interested, and they can go ahead and credit you back that $1,000. That's just a simple transaction, not a big deal. I think that's simple. And if not, we'll send a link tomorrow as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks for signing up. You won't be disappointed.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Isabel is amazing. You'll love working with her. Benita said it didn't work. So if you can, again, go ahead and get your interest set with Kendall, fill it out and get refunded. It is a specific, Patrick said, specific tax status if you manage a property for at least 750 hours a year. We're sure we're doing that because we're buying real estate and selling it all the time.
Yeah, this is a specific tax question. I don't know if Don, if you're still on, but that's
We'll leave that up.
Yeah,
to
that's up
Anderson.
to you. We don't do that.
Don.
I know when we got big, we were tax professionals. Our classes are held by Zoom, and they're actually a lot of fun because it's not just us talking for 3 days. We bring people in, we bring people who are students in, and people, a lot of great videos.
We are planning on May, though, to have a bus tour for all
Yeah,
those people
yeah,
who
you can
just
come
got to
to
see
see
and
it.
touch the miracle that's called Kate's house.
So-
You got to see it and touch it with your own.
Mohammed, Arizona is great.
Oh, Arizona's
We
good.
have a lot of students opening homes there. We actually have a realtor we know who's a good friend who is on the state board of NAR and owns 6 recovery homes. So she's perfect to help find
Let
a
me get you
home.
guys together.
And she actually provides clients. So we've seen that in action. How do the tenants come together as to who lives in which of the houses? We usually assign them, but you know what'll happen a lot? Somebody will come in and they'll say, hey, can you bring in my friends Susie and Donna? Yeah, friends like to work with friends. So our website, when you have your 501c3, we are more than happy to provide our nonprofit website. The website you're looking at, which is a teaching website, is one, but kateshousefoundation.org is a teaching website that Frank and I have put together for 6 years. It has podcasts, it has videos, it has information, and we're the only nonprofit in the United States that doesn't take cash donations. So when you go there, you're not allowed to donate, but it's an informational
And
website.
if you're on the fence of whether you're going to sign up for our class, go to that website,
Yeah.
kateshousefoundation.org. Look at those videos, and between the crying and for sadness and the crying for happiness, you're going to want to join us. It's powerful.
Oh, Roseanne said, see you soon. And Patrick, I did see your
Thank you,
note.
Roseanne.
I get with Kendall and he can get in contact with us. Patrick had some specific questions that he wanted to ask to me personally.
I want to address the pushback from neighbors. We have spent a lot of time and energy on good neighbor policy. And I know it's hard to believe what I'm about to say, but our neighbors love us. You know why? We are solving America's biggest problems without the consequence of one of those bad houses where people are coming and going at all times of the evening and bad things are going on. No, they actually love the fact that they're allowing us to be in the community and they are part of the success.
True. And, somebody asked if we brought down the value of the neighborhood. No, because
Oh.
we bring it up because we rehab
Yeah.
and
Part of our good neighbor policy is to have the most beautiful lawn on the block. We've waved that American flag, and we always do some cosmetic remodeling inside to increase the value of the home.
And somebody just asked, do I have any in Florida? No, we just moved here, but we already have funding in Florida to open as many houses as we want. We were invited by an entire county to end their problem of housing insecurity and buy homes. And we said, what about zoning? They said, we're good friends with the zoning board. So we met with the chief executive officer of the Homeless Coalition, oversees 60 agencies, and we've already met with Department of Corrections. So we are welcome here.
This is the wave of the future. You might as well get in line and get ahead of that curve.
So Roseanne, your mom was in foster care.
Mhm.
Yes, we get a lot of children who have had parents with housing insecurity. So we are in the Tampa Bay area, Alia, and we're going to be buying in Pinellas County where we currently live. And we're going to be in Pasco County, which is the county that invited us. But we also have our success coaches, people we have trained and mentored in Coral Gables and in Broward County, already have opened up homes. We mentored Sherlock Holmes, which is going national now for LGBTQ youth who've been thrown out of their homes.
And here's a nugget for you. The fees nationwide are pretty close to the same, but the price of houses in Florida are dramatically less. So there's even more room for tremendous margin for cash flow.
So we just taught this week in Lyman, so I can tell you the times of the classes: 7 to 3 a.m. on Friday, PST, 7 to 3 a.m. Saturday, PST, and 9 to 2 on Sunday, PST. And with breaks, with games, with fun, the time will fly by. I have 3 in Florida by the end of the year. Vacation rentals. We have one of our members of our success team is turning all their vacation rentals into recovery homes. We did the same.
Yeah.
We sold ours to get those.
We had a beautiful $1 million Airbnb, and it didn't come close, especially after the property management fees. It didn't come close to the profit that our shared housing brought.
And I think we've got everything. Don and
Wow,
Kendall,
we're so grateful, Don.
thank you for your time. This was so much fun.
Thank you. We loved it. It's so much fun too. Seriously, it's so much fun to have a great message with heart. You know, we always try to put messages that have heart and resonate with us, and this absolutely does. So thank you. And it's a generous offer. And, you know, again, sorry for some of the hiccups there on the registration, but you know, it always works out. So go ahead and sign up. I know that's kind of it really is a really good deal. It's a fantastic offer that we truly do stay true to. It's kind of a one-time offer that you guys do. It's not something you can do every day. So we appreciate that for our students. And, you know, Isabel, I'll work with her to make sure that code works. And if you sign up tonight, they'll go ahead. I'm sure last time we had some issues, I know where some people didn't get the discount. Well, they just refunded the discount. It's almost instantaneous once they get the order and process it. So no worries, guys.
Yeah, come and join us. We'd love to meet you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Frank, Sherry,
guys.
thank you for being here.
Oh, Don, you're
Thank
the
you, Don.
best.
Thank you so
You
much,
too,
Don.
Kendall. Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Of course, guys. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Guys, have a good night. Take care.